Hello again and thanks for joining. So today I've got a Fleischmann tank engine to look at. I'm not sure what the Fleischmann part number is of this locomotive. It didn't come with a box. It is a second-hand model though, but I do know it's a German BR89 class 060 tank engine. This one's had a bit of a checkered past, I think, because it has had a bit of a repaint and it's not looking too good. But let's have a look over this model and see if we can get it working as well. So this is quite a funny looking tank engine. It's got such small wheels and yet it's really quite bulky at the top, especially around the back. It's almost like it's been on a Greg's diet and enjoyed quite a few steak bakes in its life because it does look rather fat. However, it does have a lot of character as well, and that starts at the front here. It's got these large headlights here. It looks as though it has bulbs inside those holders there. The smoke box door has some really nice rivet detail and brackets on it, and it has this ST189 on the front there. I think that's actually been put on by the previous owner. It looks as though it's maybe made out of cardboard or something. The buffer beam is looking particularly dirty in this red colour, and it has these metal buffers here and the typical Fleischmann coupling hanging out the front. It also has these little steps here as well. This is all made of metal, so that can take a few bashes. The side of this locomotive has quite a tubby boiler here, and it has a wire handrail there on the side of it, as well as some moulding details. I think this is all metal construction. There's a tank and a strange looking filler or funnel thing there. But one of the things I do like is the coal here. It's all piled up against the front of the cab, and it's quite an interesting detail. I've never seen that modelled before on any steam locomotive. There is a transfer here which says Anna on it, and it does look as though it has been repainted in green as well. Not very well done, I think. It does have wire handrails here and also up here on the side of the cab. And inside the cab you can see that it just has the motor there. There's no details or anything like that, and there's also no glazing as well. But this would benefit perhaps from a driver in there, which maybe disguise that motor a little bit. As we come round the back of the locomotive, again, the paintwork's not too good. It's got some sloppy gold around these lamps here, which again, I think are illuminated. And it's even had some red up here for some reason, and a very scrappy buffer beam and these buffers here. On top of the cab, it's quite plain. You can see that it has been painted. And it also has this moulding line here, which goes the whole length of the top of the boiler as well. So I don't like seeing that moulding line. I think it's a bit sloppy on the manufacturing. This side of the locomotive doesn't fare much better either. It's got some of the paintwork chipped away here. It does have another box here with a really nice catch on it, and this part here, I think that's maybe a compressor, I'm not quite sure. On the top here we have a bell which has been added in as an extra piece, and then these valves here which are part of the main moulding, but they have been picked out in gold. The running gear on this is quite crude. It's got really deep flanges on the wheels, so it is quite an old model, but you can see it has metal gearing as well. Not looking too clean underneath here. It should have been red throughout, but it's been painted black, as well as wheel inserts and some degree of weathering on this valve gear, which actually just looks really quite bad. But it does look quite extensive, this valve gear, for the size of this tank engine. So before we go any further, I think we should put this on the test track and see if it runs. So here it is on the test track. Let's give it some power and see what happens. Well, I'm really quite surprised. This model runs super good. It's so smooth and quiet, and it can go at a really slow speed as well. I'm quite surprised about that, and it is actual testament to how good Fleischmann locomotives are from back in the day. I'm quite interested to take this apart and have a look at the mechanism, so let's open it up and check it out. So quite easy to take apart. It just had this one screw here which was in the chimney, and then once that was removed the whole thing came apart very easily. We have a quite extensive weight here inside the body. The body itself is just made of plastic. I thought it might be metal, but it's not. So therefore some of the moulding detail in here isn't quite as crisp as perhaps it could be. Inside you can see that it is actually made of black plastic, so I think this is possibly being completely repainted in this green colour at some point. And the chassis is a combination of metal and plastic parts. You can see the pistons here are made of plastic. Valve gear is all metal. We have this typical motor at the back here. It does actually look quite dirty, but it was running really good, so I'm not going to open this up and clean it up just now. I think it's running good enough. And round this side you can see the gearing. Quite a simple setup, and these gear wheels are made in plastic, but they are faring really well, so I'm quite impressed with this motor. Obviously one of the problems with this model is that it has been painted really badly, and this should all be red in here. So a restoration job on this model will need all this paintwork stripped off back to the red colour, and the plastic here I think also needs stripped and then painted another colour as well. So that's probably a project for the future for me, and if you have any tips on how I can get this black paint off without taking off the red paint, I'd really love to know. If you could put it in the comments, that'd save me a lot of searching on the internet. For now though, I'm going to put this back together and find out how much this weighs. So this model weighs 240 grams. So this Fleischmann model of a BR89 I think is quite a good looking model. Sure, it could do with going to Greg's a little less than it is doing because it is quite a fat locomotive, but that is part of its charm, and it's got all that valve gear that moves around when it's going up and down the track, which looks really cool, especially when mated to those small wheels. Sadly, this one is looking a bit tired and a bit bashed up, and I think the previous owner, while they've made this model their own, it isn't how I would like this model to be. So I'm going to do a restoration on this model at some point in the future. Unfortunately, it's going to have to sit and wait for a while because there's a queue in front of it of things I need to fix, and isn't that always the way? But if you're thinking about buying this locomotive, I would strongly recommend it. It runs so smoothly and it seems quite a robust model as well. I think old Fleischmann stuff should be credited more because I think it's actually quite good stuff overall, and it's certainly lasted the test of time, and this little tank engine is a testament to that. So I would recommend these models. I think you can pick them up fairly cheap for what they are as well. So let me know in the comments below what you thought about my analysis of this locomotive. Let's call it Fat Anna for now. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. Thanks for watching. I'll put another video on screen in a moment so you can click through and watch that as well. I'll put this on the turntable so you can see all the way around. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Watch out for Anna in the future. But for now, see ya.
Think about it. Always.